Life before the curse. Man didn't need to do anything. Man didn't need to fend for himself. Man didn't need to fight for himself. Man didn't need any security system. Everything man needed was divinely available. Let's examine very quickly the curse and its consequences. Because of course you know that the curse is a consequence of sin, because there was no curse until there was sin. Genesis chapter 3, we begin from verse 16 to verse 19. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. So you see, this thing that women go to put to birth, and they are struggling, they are screaming, they are shouting, is abnormal. In fact, many times you see animals give birth very easily, very freely. They don't have a midwife, they don't have any doctor. Is that true? So you wonder, why would animals be having it very easy? In fact, most of them, they give birth to many. When a woman is having more than two, the doctor would definitely suggest a cesarean section. This is where it came from. It was not meant to be so. It's a consequence of sin. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Now I hope you know, we saw where we read that God created all the plants, created all the shrubs. Can I tell you something very interesting? You didn't need to go and farm maize for you to have maize. Everything, beans, all the potatoes you needed, everything were created by God and meant to give you food naturally. And guess what? There was no weed. At that time, there were no weeds. So you didn't need to look for chemicals to be spraying your farm. There was no threat to your plant. There was no need for rain. You didn't need to have any form of irrigation system. God had his own natural irrigation system. He called it the mist. The ground had been balanced properly by God to be able to give his best to man. But unfortunately, God had to speak the consequences of sin to the ground. Why did he have to speak to the ground? And it was man who sinned. Now let me give you an understanding. It means that the ground belonged to man. God gave the ground to man to have all that man wanted, easy. The ground was to yield his best for man. Why didn't God curse the man instead of the ground? Because he already blessed the man. In Genesis chapter 1 and in verse 28, the Bible tells us God created them male and female, and God blessed them. And God said, so God is a faithful God. Say with me, God is a faithful God. So it means that God will not bless you today and come back and curse you tomorrow. Do you understand that? Yeah. He never changes. So his faithfulness couldn't allow him to place a curse on the man, because man was already blessed.